Welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. Delighted and honored that you're here. Miss Susan, good to see your sweet face again. And we're ready to head into the next layer of understanding these awesome principles that come out of the first century Aramaic language. And delighted that you're here. And yesterday, Celinda was trying to get on right at the end of the show. She had a comment for us, and it wouldn't work. So, Celinda, I see that you're there. Let's give it a try. And let's see what happens. Welcome, No Limit. Delighted you're here. Hey, Jeanie. Delighted to see your sweet face. And let's see if Celinda can get on here. Let's see if that operation works. If you can push that call button, Celinda, we'll see if we can get. And I see your hand is up. I'll hit the green button here and let's see if it works. So, oh, I hear you. I hear you.
All right.
I hear you tapping on my door, young lady.
Yes, sir. Um, this is a rather embarrassing, but unless I have a context, I won't remember what I was going to say yesterday because I didn't think to write it down.
Oh, okay. Well, yesterday we were talking about, let's see, what was the part of the conversation you had wanted to comment about writing, early writing styles when you
Oh,
were 4 or 5 years of age, that here you are at 40 and your mind goes, you're back at a 4-year-old and you're all of a sudden writing in that
oh,
style of writing that you did.
thank you. I
Does that
remember
trigger it?
now. Yes, sir. Both comments that I was going to make. One is I may have made this comment before to you, so if I did, I hope it's okay to repeat it. But the fact that they aren't writing cursive now in the schools, I find um, disconcerting because the cursive is specifically linked to the right brain, the subconscious, and printing is specifically linked to left brain.
Right. Yeah.
And like you were talking about the differences between what is it, digital and analog? Was that what you were
Right.
saying?
Yes.
Okay, cursive is analog, if I'm
Right.
understanding correctly.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Okay.
I actually just last week ordered some cursive writing books for Ari Rain, so we'll be teaching her to do cursive for sure.
Real
Not
important.
sure why they've eradicated it from the school system. It might be,
Well,
who knows?
I have a theory.
Well, we don't need more conspiracy. We got no conspiracy theories, don't we?
You're the one with the grand conspiracy of the only conspiracy there is, the universe trying to
Is
kick us out,
conspiring to heal us.
conspiring to heal us. Well,
Yes.
this is my thought, for whatever it's worth, is if the left brain is the artificial intelligence, that is the program that you have mentioned so many times, then if you can keep people out of their subconscious brains into only their conscious brains, entertain them. It's what you said yesterday, bread and circus.
Bread and circuses.
Then one of the ways you do that, don't let them access their subconscious brain. And if you want everybody to be computer robots in a endless commodity based society where it's all about the GNP,
Show
then
me the money.
show me the money, which is, that's not a judgment on my part because when money is our God, that's what we see, you know. We come from need, we come from lack, and there's never enough. I know that one personally very well, Michael.
Mm,
And so I've just decided that if I want to have abundance, I don't have to do anything. It's like the way of mastery says that you need do nothing. But out of my needing to do nothing, I choose. I'm more and more and more choosing gratitude and abundance and blessing and thanksgiving and all of those
right.
mysterious aspects of the Creator that I have been so fortuitously given. So the
Yeah.
idea is, however, are we going to, other than people who have so much discomfort, they reach out for tools like the sheets and stuff, whatever tools they find anywhere that allows them to at least get a foot up to the next step, right, in their lives. Um, the other thought I had was one, I might have shared this with you also before, but it's becoming more and more important to me. One of the
Right.
best takeaways I ever had for touch with Touch for Health, Dr. John Thee's work,
Hmm.
um, was the concept we're facilitators. Facilitators are an egalitarian, equal quality helper. No one's above, no one's below. I'm not the whale on the doctor's table being beached whale, as I like to call it. Um, I am a co creator and a co facilitator. Whether I'm a facilitator or the person being facilitated, it is an equally co creative, interdependent process. So, what I learned in the Touch for Health is in the human mind, for most humans, if they work on something, they're the expert, they're the authority. When they work with someone, they're a facilitator and they're learning just as much. And I know it's very trivial languaging, but as I've mentioned to you before, I don't believe in trivia as nothing is, this is unimportant and that's more important. Um, Everything for me being circular in my thinking when I'm not down the rabbit hole in artificial intelligence is it's all a big one interconnected quantum web that we're in. And so we never know. We judge that something important that might be the most important thing that we're not paying attention to. So, in relation to your regulatory speech, sir, I thought that might be a good regulatory term for me to use to work with. And I
Uh-huh.
really, I catch a lot, you know.
Right.
Okay, Celinda, you're working with, not on. And so I just thought I'd share that with you.
Cool. Thank you. And when you talk about that line from the course, it says, "I need do nothing." You'll notice it doesn't say do nothing. It says, "I need do nothing."
Right.
If we come from that need space, that's when we're going to create more need. When we come from that connected space, then we're going to tend to create more connection. And of course,
Love,
action
yeah,
is what
I love
it brings
Buddha.
it into expression.
Right. You know, that interdependence kind of hit the scene with what was his Goldberg's or Goldman's book on emotional intelligence. But the Buddhists have been talking about interdependence for a long, long time.
Well, and so is science. Listen to Einstein. If you think you're separate or separated from the rest of humanity, you're living in an optical delusion. And the whole process of forgiveness is to get out of those optical delusions that are so convincing. We really believe that what we're seeing is actually out there. And my offering is rarely is someone even close to connecting with what's actually out there when they're stuck in their eyes, when they're stuck in this whole game of what they think they see out there, and recognizing that whatever we think we see out there is a perceptual construct, which at any given moment we could collapse. And instead of being stuck in that little 9-bit mind, we could expand. In Aramaic, the words the kingdom of heaven can be properly translated as the king of expansion within us. And to me, that's the whole purpose of that forgiveness process. And the ultimate end of that is we realize our connectedness and our oneness with all of life. And that means we get to start moving forward on the next level.
Yeah, and I keep coming back to the metaphor of trinities, and I realize metaphors are very limited, but they are helpful little openings, little portals, so to speak, to move beyond our old beliefs. Um, of the Christ mind, Rahma, Ruha, and then the Christ child. And I don't know, I can't remember what it is in Aramaic, the awakened Christ child, because we've heard it as Christos for so long. But it reminds me of the head, the heart, and the body, and open-minded, open-hearted, open-handed, and it's just a
Moving to the next level.
moving to the next level. There you go.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, delighted to hear from a young lady. I hope your garden is going well. I'm here in Kansas City and out working in the garden again this morning, which is like being home. So,
Well, actually, we still have snow everywhere.
oh my goodness.
But
Well,
that's
I'm in
okay.
Kansas City and it went up to almost 80 yesterday,
Oh, yeah,
which is
no,
crazy.
I know it's crazy everywhere, but nature's in charge, so we just decide it's crazy, right?
Yeah,
We
I'm
have no
carefree.
clue.
Go for it.
I do have some news for you and Jeanie, though. Um, we are actually moving to the west side to
Right. Yeah, you shared that.
Eugene. Oh, I did share that
Cool.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
And Susan's saying there's a big discrepancy between the loudness of your voice and my voice, and we're going to have to talk to Anda about that again because I'm not sure what that's about. If I don't
Can
have a
you hear
headset
me
on,
all right?
I can hear you, but I have a headset on. If I don't have my headset on, it's difficult to hear you. So, but I
Yeah,
got you. So,
yeah, and
all right,
it doesn't happen very often. So I keep monitoring my phone because it's an old 6S. But
right,
um,
all
yeah,
right,
I'll talk to you later. I have lots
all right.
going
You have a
on,
blessed day.
but they'll wait. Okay.
All right, blessings. Take care. And I think hopefully my voice is coming across all right. And I'm not sure why that discrepancy. Actually, yesterday when I was talking to Susan, her voice was quite low too. So I don't know exactly what's going on with the app, but I'm sure we're going to get it all handled and moved forward and understood and taken care of. So if you're out there in listener land and you have a thought for us, push the call button on your app. There's a little checkbox or two there to fill in. Check on those boxes, and we'll be having a conversation. So my voice is coming through. Thank you, No Limit. Thanks, sweetie. Uh, yeah, that's what's going on for me too. Jeanie's saying in the chat that my voice is clear, as No Limit says it is, and only callers with a headset on, or can only hear the callers with a headset. So anyway, welcome. Glad you're here, and we're getting ready for some rain here in Kansas City. Otherwise, looking pretty cool. Pretty nice day. And I wanted to kind of pick up from where we were yesterday. We were in that conversation about the codependence work. And something that I think needs to be emphasized over and over and over because we have been convinced emotionally over and over and over that our perceptions are true, that perceiving a world of matter is true. And if we believe that lie, then everything that our mind generates for us is a reflection of the lie. And we can only really truly bring this energy system into total and proper alignment when we're aligned with the truth of what's going on. So I'm going to quote Max Planck. I've read this quote a few times recently, but it it fits here with the whole idea of codependence. And so here's what the Nobel Prize winner, Max Planck, who won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of quantum physics, said. As a man who's devoted his whole life to the most clear headed science, to the study of matter, and we need to put that word in quotes, I can tell you, as a result of my research about atoms, this much. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom into vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. In other words, there's an intelligence. So he says we must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind, and this mind is a matrix of all matter. Now, I'm going to offer one adjustment in that statement, and that is we must assume behind this force the existence of either a conscious or an unconscious mind. And my offering is, if we go to the opening words in the book of John, tie this together with physics, where it doesn't say in the beginning was the word and the word became flesh, but says in the beginning was the mind energy and the mind energy became flesh. In order for this whole world that appears to be matter to exist, there must be this intelligence, conscious or unconscious, that Max Planck is talking about in order to hold these atoms together to create what we call, or what appears to be, a solid, substantive world of matter. And so that applies to every state of health. That applies to every state of disease. And I see that we have Cary online calling. So, young lady, welcome back. I was kind of just getting back into the conversation we started yesterday. So delighted you're back. How do you be?
Nice, good. Great to be here.
Fabulous.
We have
So,
other people here too. Marek is here and Tiffany's across the room. So we're all kind of listening in.
Howdy, brother.
sweet. Welcome. Delighted to see you're here. So,
So
did you catch the whole quote that I just read from Max
no,
Planck?
I just hopped on. I just realized what time it was and
Okay.
I was a little bit
Well,
late, but I heard about half of it, I think.
okay. Well, let me just go over the whole thing. And basically, where I started with this is recognizing and applying this in the realm of codependence to interdependence to be working with only the truth. And if we don't know the truth, if we, for instance, believe in a world, a material world, then we don't know the truth, at least according to the Nobel Prize winner who came up with the whole quantum theory. So Max Planck says this: as a man who's devoted his whole life to the most clear headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you, as a result of my research about atoms, this much: there is no matter as such. All matter, and we should put that word in quotes, all matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. Now, my take would be what he's saying there is there's got to be creation, a creator behind this. And then he goes on to say, we must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind, and this mind is the matrix of all matter. So if we think that it's out there and it's going to get us, we're living in a world of fantasy. And the problem with that fantasy is being creators, and it's with the mind energy we hold that we create, then we'll create exactly the result that we think is out there getting us with no conscious awareness that we're perpetuating the very cause of the problem that we think is out there until we bring it back home and recognize that it's either, and we have to, I think, adjust his comment just a little bit, there's either a conscious or an unconscious mind. In other words, there is literally an energy force within us. There's been a big question in the world of physics about, well, what's this observer effect? We don't understand the observer effect. Until somebody measures this quantum wave, it doesn't exist as an atom. It doesn't exist as matter. What's the deal? And I think the piece that physics is missing is a piece that I learned from Marcel Vogel back 40 years ago when he brought a thing called a Delaware camera to the Global Science Conference that I was keynoting at. You remember, or pardon me, I was thinking John Davis, but actually it was trying to come up with his name, the fellow from Colorado, that ran Global Science. Dean Stonier. Did you know Dean Stonier from way back then? Were you in that circle as well as the other circles we were in together?
I know the name, and I was thinking of John Ray maybe talking
Ah,
about Vogel
yeah.
as well.
Yeah. No, it was actually Dean Stonier, and I used to keynote at his conference, Global Science. And
Nice.
Marcel Vogel came with this Delaware camera, and what he showed was the high energy waves that leave the mind when we think a thought. What makes the quantum wave collapse? The observer. What's the observer? It's someone who has the brain cells, the energetic pattern that matches the observed. It can only be observed because the observer is contributing that high energy wave that causes the quantum to collapse into what we call the frequency range of matter. So the observer effect, if I don't have the brain cells for it, it doesn't exist for me. And
Right.
once I build the brain cells, then I can play in that realm and become conscious in that realm. And there is the whole essence of creatorship, that every piece of, and when we realize that we are the inheritors of the mind energy. I mean, this, if we took every cray supercomputer on the planet and wired them all together to function as one unit, they would not even start to approximate one human form. It's that miraculous. And when you recognize that we hold literally the mind energy of generation upon generation upon generation upon generation upon generation, and then we have millions of minds holding in common those patterns, then that's the way the world manifests in that particular community. And there's a phrase we have in our culture uh, that honors or recognizes that reality and the world isn't the same for everybody. We say, oh, you go to that culture and you'll have culture shock. The mind energy that operates in a different culture is so different that people become unbalanced and can't really function because they're not in resonance, they're not observing, they're not seeing the same things as everybody else. And so my point here when it comes to the moving from codependence to interdependence is that until we're really working directly with the truth, everything we do is based on what we hold, and what we hold is mostly things from the past that now today are not alive, are not fresh, and therefore are not current creations. They're just the replicating of the past, the replicant mind running the game over and over and over again. Hence the importance of the forgiveness tool to go in and collapse those replicate patterns that usually, the ones that are most important to at least start doing one's work around are the highly charged emotional patterns, the hates, the fears, the angers, the rages, the abuses, all of those things need to be quelled. Those energetic patterns need to be quelled within our own unconscious. Otherwise, we're continuously radiating and setting those same things up over and over and over again. The essence of my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And so, you know, so Max Planck goes on and says, in all my research, I've never come across matter. To me, the term matter implies a bundle of energy which is given form by an intelligent spirit. If I have 1,000 generations of mind energy in me, that whole thing's automatic. That's the automatic decision system. That's what tends to run most people's lives. And it's not until we have a way to interrupt those patterns that we can step into a place where we consciously source something new from source rather than just replicate what's gone in the past. And
Right.
it only, the understanding of it, Planck goes on and he talks about the way you can understand that. He says modern physics has taught us that the nature of any system cannot be discovered by dividing it into its component parts and studying each part by itself. We must keep our attention fixed on the whole and the interconnection between the parts. He says the same is true of intellectual life. It's impossible to make a clear cut distinction between science, religion, and art. The whole is never equal to the sum of its various parts. And so when we get stuck in the already expressed patterns of energy and those patterns of energy become the high energy waves that maintain the same, that's when people, the dead bury the dead, the blind lead the blind. Is just playing out the same pattern over and over and over again, rather than interrupting, literally transmuting the replicate patterns and making a space, a clean and open space within the mind for a new pattern of mind energy come up that doesn't even resemble the old hostility and fear based pattern, but literally the energy comes totally and completely accompanied with breath and the presence of love. Then we can
That,
move from the codependent into the interdependent relationship, which is, the simple fact that, there's only one of us. It's time for us to really be getting interdependent.
yes. And that's so amazing that you've figured all this out. It's really incredible.
Well, one of the cautions that I offer to people, and I don't know if you've gone to that part in the self-study codependence course, but there's a place in there, you probably aren't that far along yet, where I talk about the pseudo solutions of the non-being mind.
No, I don't.
Well,
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but I
yeah,
don't think we're quite there yet.
right. Okay, well, you'll get there, and there are about a dozen of them. And the number one pseudo solution that I always present is, if I could just figure this out. And here we are sitting on top of a massive database, trying to use the beliefs in the errors of the database to figure out the errors in the database,
Yes,
which means good luck. And
right,
along comes this guy, the only one on the planet that I know of, that says, I have an app for that. I have a tool for that. I can
right.
show you how to collapse the end result of the pattern. And when you look at what it takes for a human mind to, you know, I assume you're sitting in a room somewhere. So I'm sitting in a room and I look around and there's a window over there and my granddaughter's got a balloon and there's a towel and there's a light. In order for my mind to generate all of this 3D in such awesome detail and color and all, it's a massive, massive amount of data underlying and supporting and making that possible. And on a conscious level, what the lab stats say is that's comes what the end result of it we see in an accumulation or a synthesis of a maximum of 9 bits of data firing in the mind. And there's this massive underlying database from generations and generations. So along comes this guy, says, I have a solution for you. I have a tool with which, if you'll use it, you will consistently and persistently collapse the end result of that mass from the past in you. You'll drop into it and you'll clean out what didn't belong, because you'll be able to collapse the end result, which is a perception that you have. And when the perception collapses, it will collapse into its own footprint and it'll give you access to what underlies the end result. And therefore, you can start to change it. And then you bring Carl Jung in, who says, until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives and we'll call it fate. So somebody who
Right.
has this mass database that says, life isn't fair, or life always picks on me, or I always lose, whatever the power person message was, that's the end result of generations and generations and generations. And it will always prove to be true. But when we can interrupt it with forgiveness, transmute what underlies it, that's what opens a space for, like, something that's been unheard of in the family system to show up. I think over the years about how many people I've worked with that have had just really horrendous stuff happen, just like to the point of disgusting things
Yeah.
that people have done, people have been through, and watch how. There's one young man in particular. He actually has been around the show for a while. He is on it for years. Got into the business world, but when I first met him, he was in treatment for alcoholism and had a father that was abusive, hate, and just trauma and drama. And as he started to do this work, I guess he was maybe 2 years into the work, he met a young woman, and they've created this family, and they've got two kids. And to just watch what the changes this man and his wife have made, because she came from a pretty strict religious background, guilt and fear. And between them, the changes in one generation are just like mind-boggling. When
Wow.
I know, and I hear the stories of what they've both been through previously, and then watching how they're raising their children, and just how different the world is for them. And
That's so awesome.
that to me is what Yeshua hands to people. And sadly, the king, who wants to keep people in the trauma game, because that's how you get them to do what you want them to do, as I mentioned yesterday, bread and circuses, the king wants to maintain that. So what did the king turn the tool into? Oh, it's all everybody else's fault, but you just forgive them, and then you forgive your abuser. I say to
Right.
people, never, ever, ever even think of forgiving your abuser. That's
Right.
insane.
Yep. Forgive
If you
yourself.
choose to, it might be appropriate to pardon them, but that's
Right.
not required.
Yep.
But if you're carrying the end result of generations and generations of trauma and pain, you better do some forgiveness work, which means go inside yourself and remove those things, or you're just going to get to replay it again. And if you have kids, you'll pass it on to them, and they'll get to replay it until the tools show up. And, when I think of the fact that this genius mind 2,000 years ago handed us this tool, and then the Greeks turned it around and buried it, it's like monstrous to think that it's been hidden, and awesome to think that it's here and we have the opportunity to use it. It's just, pretty amazing to me.
Yeah, definitely. It's just amazing to us, as we go through this, that you just, I don't know, all these years and you stumbled into this and figured it out and then have just been able to dissect it at deeper and deeper levels. It's really, really incredible. And we're so appreciative of the knowledge that you're passing on. I mean, it's amazing. Um, I had a couple of thoughts that I wanted to ask you questions about. One that's really interesting that kind of relates to what you're talking about. Well, it all
Right?
relates to what you're talking about, but this one in particular is, um, I have one of the things, there's two things I'd like you to help me do a worksheet on, maybe one today and
Sure.
one another day, but one is about feeling sad about the anger I had towards my dad, who was my power person, who
Okay, let's
passed on
stop.
many
Let's
years
stop.
ago. Passed on.
Let's stop.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's stop. Whoop, 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 whoop. We need to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
a pattern interrupt.
Okay.
So remember our definition of denial. When I
Right. A
think or
river that
speak,
runs through Egypt. No, I'm just kidding.
as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me, then I'm in denial. When I'm
Right.
in denial, I'm saying to my mind, you are not allowed to show me what's going on inside of me. You have to make a picture of something outside of me. So now I say, I'm really sad about what happened out there.
Right.
And that's
And
denial. And that means that you're hiding a piece of your mind from yourself. And when you hide a piece of your mind from yourself, that's when we get stuck in hallucinations like my sadness, my fear, my rage, my pain is caused by something out there, rather than,
right.
when I think about what could have been with dad and the drama and trauma we went through, I have such sadness in me. Now I've given my mind permission to own the sadness, show me the whole root of the sadness, at which point it becomes mine and I have the choice to throw it away,
Right. And
rather
then I
than
also feel
languaging.
sad about animals in the street that are hungry or poor
So once
people.
again,
So,
let's do a pattern
yeah.
interrupt.
Okay.
You've never been sad about what happened to your dad. You've never been sad about what happens to animals in the street. It's just not true. Nobody's ever been sad about anything. But if we walk around with sadness, we can instruct our mind to put that sadness into anything. We can make the sadness appear in our minds, in our perceptions, to be about anything. So my offering is, it sounds like one of the core issues that you're up against healing now is perhaps not just your sadness, but generational sadness.
Yeah.
And whenever you talk about it being about something, then you have to dissociate from what it's really about. You're
Right.
saying to your
So,
mind, you're not allowed to show me this. When I reverse my conversation, you know, I look at how animals are abused in the street and they don't have
right.
food and they're suffering. That brings up so much sadness in me. Then I have a chance to go, oh, this is my sadness. Oh,
Right.
I think about what happened with dad and it brings up sadness in me. Now I can go into direct relationship with my sadness. And in direct relationship, I have the opportunity to heal it, whether it's sadness or rage or guilt, whatever the pain is, I have the opportunity to heal it. But when I'm in denial, I'm still in relationship with it. I still get to feel it, but I'm in an indirect relationship with it. I.e., I've told my mind to put it in my brain's image of what's happening to animals on the street. I've told my
Right.
mind to put my sadness into what's happening or what happened with dad.
Right.
So I'm in an
Yeah.
indirect relationship, still feeling it, but now it's not mine to change until I
Got
shift
it.
my language and the instructions to my own unconscious to show me what this really
So,
is.
so in a worksheet, would I put, if I describe my emotion, would I put sadness?
Absolutely. Yeah, I, Cary, who am love, am
Yeah.
feeling sadness.
And then, so I can just do it with animals or with my dad. This is my awareness that I'm
Y-
feeling this, right?
Yeah, anything that triggers your sadness. You
Okay.
know, gee, I say this person's suffering and I want them to heal, and I am so sad. The difference between I am so sad and that really makes me sad when I see people suffering is in one case I'm dissociated from my sadness, in the other case I can come into full relationship with it, which is how I get to change it. Remember, in the ancient teachings, they said the power of life and death is in our words. And the reason for that is because we can carry on with death frequencies in a dissociated state and literally kill ourselves with them.
Right.
Where when we
So,
when we're in projection communication, when I go in, and that'll be another piece that comes up when we get into the responsibility communication part. So I shift my language into responsibility, and all of a sudden now, and it's going to generally tend to intensify my direct experience of sadness. But in intensifying it and having the tools and breathing and owning it and recognizing that whatever the goal is that keeps some part of this hidden from me, I can cancel it and get to the next level of bringing it forward until I'm just free. And now, let's just use an example here. Let's imagine the animal on the street that is really suffering. Which mind or minds do you suppose would serve the animal best that's suffering on the street? A mind that comes is the conscious active presence of love and
right.
can attract and pull in information, ideas,
What
resources,
can I
and
do about
capabilities
it?
to support the animal, or the
Right.
person who's almost debilitated by their sadness
Oh,
and grief.
right. Yes, and I've been moving into the second thing. I mean, the first thing, I've been moving into what can I do about it and doing something. However, I've started doing worksheets on it and realized there's this whole composite of that inside of me. So in number one on the worksheet, I would say, I am so sad about blah, blah, blah,
No,
right?
no, no,
No.
no, no. Once again, when I say I'm sad about this, now I'm saying to my mind, something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me.
Okay, so how would
So,
I say that my story, my reality in number one is?
so my reality is that I have sadness,
Okay,
and my mind tells me that my sadness is about dad or my sadness is about animals in the street.
okay.
Now,
And
are you doing the worksheet on the animals at this point? On dad? I mean, there's several worksheets you could do on this. You
yes,
could do one where you're
absolutely. I need to do it on all of them because it's
right.
definitely, it's like been things that have been surfacing every day. And
Okay.
I'm going, wow, where is this coming from?
Well, the first one you spoke about was dad, so let's make dad the
Right.
object of attention.
Okay.
So in number 1C, dad, And what's the story?
It is, I feel sadness that I didn't um, end up having kindness towards my dad when he was still alive.
Uh, so now
Not that
on
I
a
didn't
separate
have
sheet.
any, you know, uh, go ahead.
So on the side of the sheet or on another piece of paper,
Uh-huh.
I'd make a note because what I hear you saying is, and it implies that probably there are some worksheets to do around guilt as well in
Uh-huh.
your relationship with
Mhm.
that. That'd be
Mhm.
one of the one of the
You know,
directions
and
to
it's
go.
now that I've done so much work and I realize it's not somebody else, it's me, it's coming from
Yep.
inside of me. And I wish I
Yep.
had known that back then and could have been more
I hear you.
hopeful and happy and friendly back then, instead of resentful, right?
I hear you. And it comes in layers and waves. I hear
Right.
you loud and clear. And it sounds like so. Another note I'd make is it sounds like there's going to be some work to do around grief and
Right.
loss of relationship, loss of what you could have given, loss of what you could have received. So these would
Right.
all be sub files that would each of them would be another worksheet topic that would tie into this. And that's one of the reasons for doing the worksheet in writing is because when we do it in writing, there's a tendency to pay attention to our thoughts and not be able to push them aside. When people
Right.
say, "Oh, I just do the worksheets in my head," I have a song I sing to them, and my song is "Slip Sliding Away." The
Right.
nearer your destination, the more you slip sliding away. When people get close to what really needs to be felt and dealt with, that's when people turn tail or run and want to go the other way.
Right. So,
So in writing every little detail and keeping note of, so if I've got all this sadness about what it could have been, and it's me that did this part of it, so now I'm going to do some work on guilt and what I lost. I'm going to do some worksheets on what I lost. So each of those would be a separate piece of work that would support this whole collapse of your mind's capacity to even produce sadness about anything.
right.
In the same way as I mentioned earlier, I'm looking around the room, I see a light, I see a towel, I see a door, I see a window. Massive amounts of underlying energy have to move to get that 3D detailed picture. Massive amounts of data have to move underneath for me to feel this deep grief and sadness. And until I'm able to go in and make that part of my unconscious conscious and clean it out, every time something resonates, bang, it's just going to come up and take over. And that's one of the challenges when people start doing this work is, they're like, oh, this is exciting. This is great. I'm going to do it. But when they start to open the veil and look at the next depth and the trauma that's stored there, it's like almost inconceivable. And so it's a process. It's a growth. You have to grow into it.
Right. Another one, this is kind of funny that I was doing yesterday, and I did a bunch of worksheets on it, and I kept going in deeper and deeper, was you have to eat everything on your plate.
Mm. Oh, that's a big one. Yep. The
And
children
we
in
were
China are
talking,
starving.
yeah, we were
Yeah, we all
talking
heard that.
about how many parents and grandparents told their kids that, at least in our generation,
Yeah.
uh, and then what's
Yeah, it's like,
behind
okay,
it,
well, here, take this plate and send it to China. I'm
right?
finished.
Yeah, that's what my sister-in-law started saying to my mom. But as a result, I still eat too much when I sit
Yeah.
down to eat, and
Mm.
I feel stuffed. And even though it's healthy food, when I get done, I think, why did he eat so much? I know, and so I thought I'm going to just start doing worksheets on this. So
Oh,
yesterday,
nice.
yeah, and
So notice the context in which the food issue comes up, and it's the sadness. There's a
mm,
connectedness there.
interesting.
So
So it's more in
when
that.
this sadness starts to move, you know, whenever we do something addictively, every addiction is always the call for an anesthetic to assuage our guilt, our pain, whatever it is that we haven't resolved yet.
Right.
So anything can be used addictively. When I define addiction, and we'll get to it, comes up in the intensive there, is the compulsive use of any person, place, thing, circumstance, or activity in order to keep from following my highest guidance, or in order to keep from feeling and dealing with what's going on inside of me.
So just eating too much food is, even if it's
Drug.
healthy food, it's an
You're drugging
anesthetic.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
An anesthetic.
And
Yeah.
again, we come back to maybe generational sadness. Oh,
Good catch.
here we are. I had to get my phone live again.
Okay.
But generational sadness, generational pain, uh, loss, grief, fear of not having enough, fear.
Right.
Uh,
Being threatened.
uh-huh. Interesting. And since I'm a Middle Eastern heritage, I think, man, what generations of that kind of battle and suffering have gone on, and
Yes.
people thinking they weren't going to have enough. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, this is all stuff I really want to clean up. I'm really excited to be delving into it.
Yeah. One of my thoughts is it'd be good when we finish to go back and re-listen with your note, sharp ears in your notebook, and in every issue that you even speak a word about, make a note, and that's a series of worksheets that,
Right.
as you do this, there's a great quote from uh, who am I thinking of? Shakespeare. He says, "My words fly up, my thoughts remain below." So when you listen to this whole conversation, and coming right into where the relationship with food and how that is related to sadness and dad, that every word that you speak will tell you about what's going on in your unconscious. And when you see something that ties into anything other than love, then that's my next worksheet. And sometimes you
Right.
end up doing, 5 worksheets a minute when you really start moving into stuff, which is,
Yeah.
again, one of the reasons why people often turn tail and run. I've seen it
Right.
take as long as 10 years for somebody to come back to this work and go, well, what was that you said, Michael? 10 years ago? I'm ready
Well,
now.
let me bring this up. As many times as I've done worksheets, which is lots, I'm in confusion right now about
Perfect.
what gets filled in where.
Okay.
Um, my story, my reality is that 1C, um,
So
that
who are we doing? Are we doing this on dad?
let's do
Are
it
we
on
doing
dad.
this on you
Well,
in
uh,
relationship to dad?
yeah,
Because
me and
it was really more focused, as you started to speak, more of your words were about what you felt you had done or not done and your
right.
contribution to the
Yeah,
situation.
I guess I'd say that's it.
So I would put my name in there. So I'd put Cary in number 1C.
Okay.
And there are at least 50 different things that we've talked about that you could make the second part of 1C. So uh, perhaps the one to go with is I could have, should have done more
Yes.
in terms of extending myself to my father,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't because of my judgments.
Mm-hmm.
Are you breathing?
Yeah, I'm breathing and I'm writing.
It didn't sound like you were breathing.
And Maddox says crying too. Yeah.
Yeah. But were you really breathing?
No.
No, I didn't think so. So that's when you know you're driving right in now to take the next breath, and that takes you into the next level of your own unconscious. This is how you open the veil piece by piece.
Right.
So breathing with you, breathing for you.
Yes.
Go
And
for it. So go into that feeling. Let yourself drop into that and breathe all the way in.
it's a
Breathe
lot of
deeply into
talking.
your chest.
Yep.
So notice you've got a whole audience from around the world just here right now holding the space for you. Beaming energy. extending the active presence of love toward you. And notice you've got Tiffany and Merrick right there with you, supporting you. And it's safe to look. It's safe to go there fully.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect, with, as you say, your Middle Eastern heritage, this is a grief, a thread that you could probably pull back for hundreds of years,
Yeah.
if not
And
thousands.
what pops up as I go into the breathing is the fear of punishment. So that's a
Mhm.
whole nother layer in there.
Right. Well, and is there perhaps self-punishment here?
Well, I'm sure.
Like what I should have done?
I mean, what came up for me was what I experienced in the outer, like, oh, if I was more friendly, happy, blah, 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 maybe I would get punished.
Oh, interesting twist. So you're going to get punished for being more outgoing. Wow. Okay. So I'd go ahead and use that then. Then I'd make that the second part. So your name's in number 1C, and the second part, I'd put that in there. If I express happiness, I'm going to be punished.
Okay.
That's a powerful one.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the thought. And then the punishment part. I want.
So then what in that situation, do you have a punishment thought toward yourself?
Yeah, I would just say running away.
Okay. So I want to escape. And then
Running
what's the
away and
punishment?
hiding. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the punishment taught? And is food a way of hiding?
Could be.
Okay.
Yeah. Can
And
put
then
that
is there a
in.
punishment thought toward whoever the they is that would be handing out the punishment?
Just getting away from them, leaving.
Okay. So you're going to leave them. All right.
I did that a lot. I mean, I was good at running away from home as a kid.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah.
Breathing with you on that.
Hmm.
Probably wasn't very funny back then.
No, it wasn't funny back then, but it is now thinking about it, which is good, I guess. Maybe that's, you know, layered under that. So number 3, my desire, the constructive result, the exact goal that drives my pain perception is that C, my trigger, which is me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would breathe more.
Breathe more might be it. Perhaps would have the courage to
Yeah,
express my true self. Is that ever
yeah.
an issue for you as life has
Oh, yeah.
unfolded? The courage to really put yourself out there and express yourself in
Yeah.
your fullness of joy and aliveness?
Yes. And I kind of
So,
joke about it that I've done all these shows online. I have this following and and now I'm pretty outgoing, but as a kid, I was just silent. I just went internal and I even ended up going to a dance with a guy in high school, and he saw me at a reunion and he said, I couldn't get you to say a word. And that was kind of the result of how I processed my childhood.
yeah. So I'd be doing a worksheet on that. I'd make a note to do a worksheet on that conversation with that guy.
Okay, I can do that.
I mean, these are all nuggets of gold.
Right. And then, so I now choose to collapse my mind's lies by willingly canceling my goal for 1C, which is,
Yourself. So you're number 1C. That's your
okay,
name in
so
there.
then I
And
would
so
breathe more and have
then
more courage.
the goal you had in number 3, you bring down to number 5A.
Okay.
And by the way, just for your edification and everybody else who's listening, when you talked about, geez, I'm getting confused about how to even do this, even though I've done it over and over. Remember that confusion is an electrical phenomena in the brain.
I got it. Yep, I
Okay.
agree.
And
Yes.
so, I use an example of I've got a 4x8 whiteboard up here and I shine a red light on it, a blue light, and a green light. And everybody looks and you see clearly red, blue, and green. Now, we know scientifically there's no such thing as red, blue, and green, that's what the mind generates as color, but each of them are different frequencies, distinct frequencies. The person who's colorblind doesn't see colors the same way we do. It's a product of the brain. But if I took the red light, the blue light, and the green light and shot them all in one spot or set them all on one spot, I wouldn't have clarity on any one of them. There'd be confusion because literally those different frequencies are additive and subtractive. And so I'd have this kind of mess of red, blue, and green on the board. In exactly the same way, when I'm dealing with my mind, if I have an old trauma energy and I'm bringing in active present love and clarity and conscious awareness, those energy patterns mix with each other in the same way those light frequencies do. And that's confusion.
Right.
And the objective is to keep pouring in the breath, delivering the active presence of love to the place where there is conflicting energy until that conflicting energy is all transmuted and moved out of the system. Then the confusion's gone.
Very good. Yeah, I'm even dizzy listening to you.
Well, that's the toxic release. So you're reaching into some deep places, and your cells are literally letting go of toxins. When they hit the brain, bingo,
Yep.
one gets lightheaded. Yeah,
Yep.
and any kind of, remember that in the healing process, that we kind of skipped over the step of I'm willing to go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. So
Right.
that dizziness is one of the physical symptoms of the toxic release that's happening as you're touching into these underlying energies and starting to process them out of tissue.
Right. So now I wrote in, I now feel dizzy. And B, about number one, I see that.
Well, wait a minute.
Okay.
Let's do the other step in there. So in number 5, I've canceled the goal in 5A. Now, recognizing that I have this 9-bit processor and I'm delving into something that's obviously huge, how long is it going to take me to process that huge block of energy and data using a 9-bit mind?
Right. So I'm going
Not
to call it.
likely it's going to happen anytime soon.
All right.
So 5B is there to key in. Remember, there is this feminine elemental force. It is your own breath that you enlist and you consciously ask that elemental force for assistance in, there's several things there that we suggest you ask for. How about going through that asking step?
All right. I now invite Ruka to incline me towards healing. I take a breath and restore my newborn essence love to heal my denial and my capacity to generate my emotion of 1B, which was sadness, and to help me open a direct conscious relationship with and gently remove. Oops. I was reading it, lost my phone there. Here we are again. Gently remove the denied, disassociated, and projected parts of my carbon based memory. And then I now feel dizzy. And B, about number one, I see
Let's
that.
let's stay with that for a minute and just breathe
Okay.
into that and be with that dizziness.
It's 12:01, so I don't want to.
Oh, I wasn't even looking at the clock. I was with you
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
okay.
I'm really dizzy.
Okay. So breathing with you into that dizziness.
Right.
Let the toxic release go. Keep inviting Ruka to move, whatever. Go to depth. I mean, you've touched into a lot of facets of this particular piece of coal, and as you transmute it, it'll turn into a diamond with all those facets that make whole new capabilities available to you and whole new
Yes.
capacities. And imagine can you imagine this? What would it be like for Cary to live in a world where it is absolutely impossible for you to conceive of being sad about anything?
I don't know.
Go for it. Go on in. Breathe into it. I mean, like it's impossible to be sad. Nothing could.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah. Well, when you're living as a human being, it's impossible to be sad.
Wow.
Sadness is an aspect of fear. And when I process through that, it disappears.
So do I write that in
Sounds like
6A?
that. Sounds like that's your guidance. Go for it. Yes.
Okay. Yes, very good.
Breathing with you. And then what's your
So
new goal? Let's move to
I have to be shown a time
the
when I have not fulfilled number 3, which is I'm so sad about how I treated my dad or was with him. Uh, so how am I shown when I didn't fulfill that?
well, seeing as how the worksheet's on yourself, that's kind of a redundant step
Because I'm
at
just
this
like
point.
totally in a altered state right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd just stay with that. And I'd go to the last step and what would be a conscious goal in the state you're in now that you could hold or you could have for Cary.
So structured from love, I structure a goal towards you and offer you to breathe.
Offer me, Cary.
To breathe and trust.
Hmm. Wow. Now there's the bottom line. Trust. You got it. I can't express who I am because I can't trust these people to take care of me.
Wow. Yeah.
That's the core of it.
Yeah.
Breathing with you. And take a look around and notice that here you have a new family that you can trust.
Yeah.
And that family that you developed this inability to trust didn't know any better.
Right.
If they had, like you've said about yourself, if you had known better, you'd have done much differently with your dad.
That's
And
right.
so would so would we all.
Yes.
But when we're locked into these energetic dynamics from generation upon generation, it's a challenge to break through. And I just honor you for your willingness and that you've opened this for the genetics of this place on the earth where there's so much trauma going on right now,
Right.
so much grief and so much sadness and so much pain.
Yeah.
And so I'm here to join with you in being able to just be an open field that can dissolve and process, move that energy literally off of the planet for all of
Yeah.
us.
Yes. Thank you so much for walking me through this. I'm gonna
You
keep
are
digging
so
into my
welcome.
worksheets. Yep.
All right, dear
Really
heart.
excited.
Well, I'll Jeannie will get the show and get it up on the on YouTube. Um,
Okay.
and I'd suggest going through and just I mean you literally uncovered at least 50 worksheets there,
Yeah,
and
I've been taking a lot of
awesome
notes
piece of
as
work.
we've been going, jotting a lot
Yeah,
of things down. So
yeah,
yeah,
cool,
I'll do that and I'll review it.
nice.
And thank you so much. And we've used up all the worksheets we had in the house, I think. We couldn't even find a
Uh-huh,
blank worksheet just now.
uh-huh. Well, remember that we have an app, and you can do them right there on the app too.
I know.
I need to try that.
Yeah,
I like the writing.
yes, I got it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, everybody has their own way of doing it, but
Yep.
the app is always there too.
Perfect.
Cool.
I'll try the app.
And it's the Heartland.
Yeah, if you go to your app store, just type in Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. One word,
Right.
Heartland, Heartland, Aramaic
I do have
forgiveness,
it on my phone. I
you'll
just
see a
gotta
red
remember.
heart come up, and that's it.
Cool. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Michael. You
Holding you
send
in a
me a
blessing. Thanks for the question.